Fewer teams have frustrated their fan base more than the Buffalo Bills over the past decade and a half. The Bills as an organization have not been to the playoffs since the 1999 season, which ended in a very sad fashion for Bills fans with the Music City Miracle, or as I like to call it for Bills fans, the Nashville Nightmare. That's 14 seasons the Bills haven't made the playoffs. An organization toiling away in mediocrity if there ever has been a clear and present example of it. Now, with all that being said, I do think the future holds some hope for the Buffalo Bills. It could also end up being eventually more of the same old Bills, but there are some glimmers of hope and there are some reasons to be optimistic and excited if you are a Bills fan. Now, the 2014 NFL draft, I think, is going to be critical for the Buffalo Bills in determining whether they're finally going to get out of the top 10 and maybe start to become a playoff contending team, or if they are going to reside in that top 10 for the next several years to come. Now, in terms of the Bills and their draft history over the past couple of seasons, they've had some pretty nice hits and some good successes, and they also have some really glaring question marks. I don't know necessarily per se if they have a bunch of misses, but there's some hits and some really, excuse me, big question marks. In terms of the hits, Marcell Dareus, who they took third overall in the 2011 draft, has been every bit, I think, as advertised. He was definitely a hit for them and a cornerstone of their defense. Cordy Glenn, a second-round pick at offensive tackle. He, again, has been, I think, everything you could have hoped for out of him as a second-round pick, mind you. I still wonder, ultimately, if his long-term future in the NFL is best suited to play left tackle or if he's better to play left guard or right tackle. But for the draft position and what he's done and how productive he's been, I think you could definitely classify him as a hit. And then, of course, their second-round pick from this last year, the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Kiko Alonso. He was a stud, no question about it. One of those picks that the Bills fans are going to love for many years to come, and the Bills organization are going to continue to reap the benefits of for many years to come. But unfortunately, with some of those hits come some really big questions. You know, guys like Aaron Williams, a safety that they picked in the second round a few years ago out of Texas. The bottom line is they let Jairus Byrd go, and they gave Aaron Williams the big money. And that's kind of questionable. You know, it remains to be seen whether that will truly pan out or not. Stephon Gilmore, their first-round pick in 2012 at corner. A lot of people were surprised when they took him at number 10, and he really hasn't played up to that lofty draft status yet. He just frankly hasn't. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been all that good yet. We'll see what year 3 brings for him. But ultimately, the biggest question of all, and the biggest key factor in determining whether the Bills are going to quickly ascend to relevance and maybe even prominence, or they're going to continue to toil in their bad mediocrity, is EJ Manuel. He's the one that they took that in the first round last year. He's their quarterback. He's their franchise player now. He's the future. He's the guy that they have to build their team around. And last year he had some flashes where he was very good, and then he also struggled to stay healthy. You know, if you have a young quarterback and he suffers multiple knee injuries as a rookie, you have to be a little concerned if you're the Bills front office, if you're the Bills coaching staff, and if you're Bills fans. You know, even if this guy has tremendous talent, and even if he flashes more improvement and flashes more big playability in 2014 and more consistency, is it really going to matter if this guy can't stay healthy on the football field? It's a critical question. Now, heading into this draft, the Bills have 6 picks. They're not sitting in any tremendous position of power, but they're picking at number 9 in the first round, which means they have the chance to still get an impact player in this draft. Then you have your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, and your seventh round picks. No 6th round pick, no multiple picks in any of the middle rounds. But the Bills are sitting in a position where they can still, with the picks that they do have, address some of their deficiencies and some of their need areas. And I think when it comes to their draft strategy, I think it's very simple. You took EJ Manuel in the first round last year. He's your quarterback. You took a quarterback in round 1. That makes him the player that you build your organization around. He is your franchise piece. And you have to do everything you can to help out EJ Manuel, to put him in as many possible situations to succeed as you possibly can. And the way you do that is giving him ammunition and help on the offensive side of the football. And that, to me, in my opinion, is where the Buffalo Bills need to focus early and often in this 2014 NFL draft. In terms of team needs, wide receiver. They need a big physical number one wide receiver so very badly. They could also use a speedy, quick twitch type of slot option. Some people might say, well, Marquise Goodwin, and he might be that guy, but he only showed it in occasional flashes. The bottom line is they need help at the wide receiver position. In particular, they need a big time number one. Now, some of you might say again, well, Mike Williams, they traded for him, so maybe him and Robert Woods, if they keep Stevie Johnson, but they might not. No, either way, they still need to get, at least if nothing else, that big physical number one type of wide receiver, which would make you think that somebody like a Mike Evans might be the guy. But unfortunately, I think at this point for the Buffalo Bills, as I've talked about before, I thought it was a slam dunk that Evans would be a top 10 pick, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him go in the first 6 or 7 picks. And it continues to look more and more likely that that's exactly what's going to happen. So the Bills are either going to have to trade up, which they don't have a lot of draft pick currency and ammunition to be able to do that without causing themselves some problems, or they're going to have to sit there and address wide receiver later in the draft, which the good thing for them is that this is a draft class that is very, very deep at the wide receiver position, both at the top in round one and in the middle rounds and even in the late rounds. So they'll be able to find that wide receiver help as long as they identify the right guy. A tight end, I think, is a really big need for them. Yes, they re-signed Scott Chandler, but Scott Chandler is not a number one type of tight end in the NFL. He's a nice complementary number two tight end. What the Bills need is that explosive Vernon Davis type of tight end, that type of guy that could create all types of mismatches. He could be a vertical threat down the field, and he could just create havoc for opposing defenses' game plans. When you have a young quarterback, one of the best ways to help out that young quarterback is not only with a great running game and a great offensive line, but it's having that tight end, that great safety valve, that great intermediate target that could also go down the field vertically. I think they need some help still on the offensive line, both on the inside and at tackle. Maybe you could find in this draft a left tackle or a right tackle. You need an upgrade at right tackle for sure, but maybe you could find somebody you feel is going to be an eventual upgrade over Cordy Glenn at left tackle, and you could slide him inside to left guard or to right tackle. They have a need now with letting Jarvis Byrd go. They have a need at safety. They could probably use another inside linebacker on the other side of Kiko Alonso. But I think at the end of the day, for this draft in 2014 be successful for the Buffalo Bills, they need to find an impact player at wide receiver. They need to find an impact player at tight end. It wouldn't be surprising at all because the Bills have been known in recent years to make some shocking picks in the first round that nobody saw coming. See C.J. Spiller, see Stephon Gilmore, see E.J. Manuel. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see them stay put at number 9 and take Eric Ebron, the tight end from North Carolina. They need that type of weapon at tight end. They need a big physical number one wide receiver. They need more help on the offensive line. They need help for E.J. Manuel, period. They have to surround this guy with as many good pieces as possible and put him in the best possible situations to succeed. If the Bills can do that and do that effectively in this draft, and then the future of this organization will look very bright. If this organization fails to do that, then E.J. Manuel's going to struggle, ultimately probably be a failure in Buffalo, and it's going to be many more years of the same old shit for Bills fans.